All right, guys, we're coming back at you with another tier list video. Today, we're going to be going over all the races and sub races within Baldur's Gate 3. If you guys like the video, be sure to drop a like and maybe even subscribe. I do a lot of honor mode playthroughs, and I also make tons of videos that are just guides in general. So, if you guys are looking for that kind of stuff, look no further. Anyways, let's get right back into it. So, we're going to be starting off with human. Now, one of the nice things about humans is if you want to play a human, it's not a bad choice, right? And you can make it look however you want to. It has the most diverse options for how you want your character to look. Whereas, like something like elf, for example, there's like three different sub races, right? But there's not a whole lot of like facial options, but with humans, you can make it look however you want to. It's really neat like that, as far as just cosmetics. But if we're looking at the actual features, you get civil militia, which means you gain proficiency in pikes, spears, halberds, and glaives. And you also get an armor proficiency, no matter what class you are, in light armor and in shields. So that's pretty good, right? Also, you get a neat little perk, human versatility. So you gain proficiency in a skill of your choosing, and your carrying capacity is increased by a quarter. Um, so yeah, it's a pretty solid pick. Obviously, it's going to be a very vanilla pick, um, because we are humans, right? This is the only one that actually exists, right? But yeah, where I'm going to rank this is going to be a solid A tier. You have a lot of options with human. Um, you know, being able to carry a shield means that you can easily be a spellcaster and have options with the shield. You don't gain any cantrips just from your race, but you also get an extra proficiency. So what that means is you can pick, let's say you're like a warlock or something, you could put an extra proficiency into insight or something like that. It's a pretty solid pick. If you're like going something like a bard, on top of all the crazy amount of proficiencies you get as being a bard, you could go another extra proficiency with human. So plus your weapons proficiencies you get if you do like a pole arm at master feat, you're already gonna have proficiencies with all your pole arms. So and you also get light armor for free. So if you're a sorcerer or whatnot, you have light armor for free. Next up, we're gonna have high elf. So with high elf guys, you're gonna get elven weapon training, and you gain proficiency in the following, right? Long sword, short swords, long bows, and short bows. That's going to be pretty good. If you go any type of fighter, you're going to get that kind of stuff anyway. So, it's not super good, but it is pretty good. You get dark vision. It's not superior dark vision. So what that means is unless you're like a melee character, you're really not benefiting from this a whole lot because that dark vision, I believe, is only like 12 meters. So it's not super far. Um, and you also get Fey Ancestry, which means you have advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and magic can't put you to sleep. That is pretty good. Uh, it's not something that, oh, I have to pick Elf because of this, but it is pretty good. You also get, and this is for your sub race, you get one cantrip from the wizard spell list that spells off of intelligence. Now, is that huge? Not really. If you're going to be a wizard, you get access to one extra cantrip. That's nice, but it's a cantrip at the end of the day. If you got like an extra prepared spell slot, that would be nice. Like if you could have one more spell prepared, that would be huge. But honestly, high elf for me, uh, you know, unless you're just going for roleplay reasons, it's gonna be in a B tier. I mean, it's a solid pick, but there's better options. Then we're going to go with the wood elf. So everything we just read off for high elf at the beginning of it, other than the cantrips, is going to apply to all of your elves. You're going to get that Fey ancestry, you're going to get that dark vision, and you're going to get that elven weapon training. Where the wood elf differs is you're going to actually have 1.5 meters or 5 feet more movement speed. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it definitely is noticeable. And you also gain a proficiency in stealth. So, that is pretty good, guys. Wood elves are probably the one of the best elves. So, we're going to go ahead and put them we're going to put them in high B tier. High B tier. Um and we'll get into why a little bit later. All right. All right, so now we're looking at the Lulf's Sworn Drow and the Seldering Drow. Now, to my understanding, both of these are going to be basically identical stat wise, but you are going to have some more advantageous dialogue options with the Lothsworn Drow, I do believe. I think characters fear you a little bit more if you're a Lothsworn Drow, but it might just be if you're just a Drow in general. When I played as a Drow, I actually played as the Lothsworn Drow, so I can't speak to the Seldarine Drow if the dialogue options are not as good. But you get a lot of good options with the Lothsworn Drow just from the dialogue. But enough about that. You get drow weapon training, so you get proficiency in rapiers, short swords, and hand crossbows. That is pretty excellent, especially if you are a dex-based character. Superior dark vision. That is what's going to make this super good, guys. Having a superior dark vision gives you up to 24 meters of dark vision. So if you are a spellcaster that's in somewhere like, oh, I don't know, the Underdark, you can cast spells without having disadvantage up to 24 meters. That's huge, guys. You also get Fey ancestry, just like all the other elves. And then you also get Drow magic spells, right? So you get Dancing Lights, which is a cantrip. You get Fairy Fire at character level 3, and you get Darkness at character level 5. Darkness and Fairy Fire are both great spells, especially at the level that you get them. And then on top of all of that, you gain a proficiency in the Perception skill. All of that is huge. All of that is huge. So I'm gonna put them in an A tier. Definitely going in an A tier. You don't get any armor proficiencies or whatnot, but I think, especially for a spellcaster, all the benefits that you get are pretty huge. And Seldering Drow, I believe, is going to be everything that I just said is going to apply to them as well. I'm double checking as I talk. So, high half elf. So, all of your half elves are going to give you a base movement speed. Well, actually, the wood half elf is probably going to have a little bit more. But all of them are going to have civil militia, so you gain proficiency in pikes, spears, halberds, and glaives, right? And you're going to have armor proficiency of light armor and shields. Now, on top of that, you're going to have dark vision, right? And you're going to have Fey ancestry. So the high half elves, uniquely, they get same thing as the high elves, they get a cantrip. That is their unique thing. But they also, on top of getting that cantrip, they get everything that you basically would get from human except for the extra proficiency. So high half elf is going to go in A tier. The wood half elf, you get everything that we just mentioned with your light armor. You get all of that, but you also get a movement speed boost. So this is just, in my opinion, objectively better than your standard wood elf. So that's going to go in A tier. and then your Drow half elf. So you get all of those, the cantrip at level 1, Fairy Fire at 3, and Darkness at level 5, right? And you're going to get that Fey Ancestry, and you're going to get Civil Militia, and, the light armor proficiency and the shield proficiency, which is, I mean, it's just huge. This is actually going to be our first S tier. Think the Drow half elf. You're going to get a lot of the same dialogue options that you would if you just went pure Drow, but you also get the shield proficiency, which is huge if you're a spellcaster. Half orc S tier. And I'm going to tell you guys why. So your base movement speed is going to be 9 meters. That's standard, right? You're going to get dark vision, which is going to be just the standard dark vision, right? So you get 12 meters of dark vision, which for a melee based character, that's all you need. That's plenty. Which with this character, you're probably going to go a melee based build. You get relentless endurance. So what that means is basically a free death ward. If you reach 0 hit points, you regain 1 hit point instead of becoming down. That's huge, guys. That means that you don't go prone. That means you don't lose your turn. This recharges on long rest, right? And then on top of that, as if that wasn't huge enough, you get savage attacks. So when you score a critical hit with a melee weapon attack, an additional damage dice is added to your total damage. That's huge, guys. And then also on top of all that, just for free, you get proficiency in intimidation. Just for free. That's pretty huge, guys. I think half orc is definitely an S tier. Let me know if you guys disagree, but I feel like that's definitely an S tier. All right, so now we're gonna do Lightfoot half. So halflings as a race, all halflings will have the 7.5 meter movement speed, and I'm gonna tell you guys that is going to be the main drawback of going a halfling. Um, you're going to notice that lack of movement speed, even with buffs. Uh, it's hard. Um, but you also get halfling luck. When you roll a 1 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll the die, but you must use the new roll, which you would want to anyway, right? Because the other one's guaranteed to fail because you rolled a 1. So that's a pretty solid thing. Uh, makes you somewhat immune to, just getting a 1 when you really don't need a 1. You also get brave. You have advantage on saving throws against being frightened. That's pretty good. It's not huge, but it is pretty good. And then, so for the Lightfoot halflings, the subrace feature means that you're going to have naturally stealthy, which gives you advantage on stealth checks. That's pretty huge, guys. Advantage on stealth checks just automatically. It's pretty huge. We're gonna give that to A tier. And then our Strongheart halfling. So the subrace feature we have for them is going to be Strongheart Resilience. You have advantage on saving throws against poison and have resistance to poison damage. That's going to be a C tier. But to me, that's not very useful. You can get that through other races, like certain dragons, but you're not. Number one, you don't look stupid. You're not short, right? I mean, you might say being a dragon is more dumb looking than being a halfling. I would disagree, but you also don't have you know, the drawbacks of not being able to move as much on your turn. So yeah, now we're gonna go to the dwarves, and I'm gonna go ahead and tell you guys the dwarves are some of the best that you're gonna get. All right, so dwarves as an entire race, all dwarves get dwarven combat training, and you gain proficiency in battle axes, hand axes, light hammers, and war hammers. That's pretty solid. You get dark vision, pretty solid. Some of them will get superior dark vision. We'll get into that in a second. And you get dwarven resilience. You have advantage on saving throws against poison and have resistance to poison damage. Pretty good. Not insane. There's not a whole lot of poison in the game, but it is pretty good. Gold dwarves. That's the one that we are doing right now. So dwarven toughness. This is what you get for gold dwarves. Your hit point maximum increases by one and increases by one again every time you gain a level. Um, yeah, not not huge. Honestly, that's gonna be like a C tier for me. And then shield dwarves. Now, this is one that you might strongly consider going if you're a spellcaster. Shield dwarves, dwarven armor training. You gain proficiency in the following: light and medium armor. Now, that's pretty huge, especially if you're not going something like Draconic Ancestry Sorcerer, because that means with the high dex that you'll probably have as a spellcaster, or somewhat high dex, you might have 16 dexterity or 14 dexterity. Now you can wear medium armor and stack your proficiency modifier on top of that. That's huge. There's some really great medium armor sets in Act 2 and Act 3. So, for that reason, I'm going to put Shield Dwarf in an A tier. And if you'll notice something, guys, there's going to be a lot of races that are in the A tier. There aren't too many races. I don't even know if I will put any races in the RP tier. It's there if we need it, but I feel like almost all of these are going to be, uh, not garbage. Uh, Rhaegar, S tier. Let's go ahead and go for Y. Superior dark vision. You can see it in the dark up to 24 meters. Huge for a spellcaster or just a ranged character in general. Um, you get Dwagar resistance. You have advantage on saving throws against illusions as well as being charmed or paralyzed. That's also pretty huge. You gain the following spells. First level spell at character 3 recharges on long rest. You get enlarge. It's a pretty solid spell. Uh, and it does not require concentration anymore. It used to require concentration, it does not now. At level 5, you get invisibility for free. So, I mean, that's pretty huge, guys. Invisibility for free and enlarge for free. Pretty huge. Not gonna lie, guys. All right, now we're gonna go to the gnome. Now, there's gonna be some really good classes here. Um, so all gnomes as a race, they do suffer from not being able to move as much. All of the short characters, if I didn't mention that for dwarves, uh, and also with the halflings, they're going to have reduced movement speed. But you also, just for being any type of gnome, you gain advantage on intelligence, wisdom, charisma saving throws. That's pretty huge, guys. That's pretty huge. Um, so rock gnomes, we're gonna do that one first. They, as a sub race, have dark vision, and they also have artificer's lore. Add twice your proficiency bonus to history checks. Yeah, if the race itself wasn't so good, this would go in RP. But because the race itself is so good, it's going to go in C tier. The sub race feature that you're getting, proficiency bonus to history checks, that's practically useless. I think there's only a handful of history checks in the game, so pretty much useless. Forest gnomes. This one's going to be the same way. You get dark vision, and you also get speak with animals. But on top of everything that you get, you know, as a gnome, as a race, pretty terrible. Uh, as a sub race feature, that's basically worthless. Now, here's where we get to the good stuff. Eat gnomes. We get superior dark vision, and you also get stone camouflage, which gives you advantage on stealth checks, guys. This is an S tier. If you are playing a stealth based character, this is the class for you. The only drawback is going to be the fact that you can't move around as much, but you can remedy that with Long Strider and stuff like that. But guys, I mean, come on. That could be one of the best races we have. All right, so now let's get into the tieflings. All right, so all tieflings are going to have dark vision, and they're also going to have hellish resistance. So what that means is basically you have fire resistance, which means you take half damage to all fire, which is pretty solid. Fire is a very common damage type. I think it is the most common damage type, other than like slashing and bludgeoning and stuff like that. So that as a race is pretty good. So if we go into our sub races, Asmodeus Tieflings, what you get for that is you get a cantrip, produce flame at level 1. At level 3, you get Hellish Rebuke, which is pretty nice. Not all spellcasters are going to have access to that, so it's pretty huge. Second level spell, level 5, you're going to get Darkness. So at level 5, guys, you're going to get Darkness. You get that from the Drows, but Darkness is pretty huge, especially if you're a Warlock with Devil Sight. You can really use Darkness to your advantage. Um, Honestly, guys, this is probably getting an A tier for me. It's not, you know, make or break. You have to have this, but I would honestly recommend it. All right, the Mephistopheles Tieflings. So they are going to get Mage Hand at level 1, Burning Hands at level 3, and Flame Blade at level 5. And that Flame Blade is going to use your Charisma modifier. This is pretty good. Having a free Mage Hand is nice. Having Burning Hands for free is nice. And you're also going to get that fire resistance, and they just look cool. These are going to get an A tier for me as well. And then finally, the Zariel Tieflings. So you're going to get Thaumaturgy. It's not super huge. Searing Smite at level 3. Now, keep in mind that Searing Smite, you're only going to get to use that once per long rest. And then at level 5, you get a Branding Smite. Same thing. That's once per long rest. Um, that sounds really good, but it's honestly it's not huge. Because if you're going this Tiefling, if you're going a fighter, right, or a barbarian, like for example, Karlak is a Zariel Tiefling. Even though she looks more like an Asmodeus Tiefling, she is actually a Zariel Tiefling. And she gets that Searing Smite and that Branding Smite. But I just find that it doesn't have a huge effect. But it is nice. So I'm going to give that a B tier. The cantrip you get, Thaumaturgy, is very mid to say the least. So next up, this is just Githyanki. There are no sub races of Githyanki, which is kind of disappointing. But Githyanki as a race is going to be pretty solid. You're going to gain proficiency in, so you're going to get access to astral knowledge. What that does is you gain proficiency in all spells corresponding to a chosen ability, right? So, like charisma, you'll get persuasion and whatnot. And you gain that per long rest, once per long rest. Then you're also going to get Githyanki Psionics, so you gain access to Mage Hand, Enhanced Leap, and Misty Step. You're going to get Mage Hand at level 1, Enhanced Leap at level 3, and Misty Step at level 5. You're also going to get Martial Prodigy, so you gain proficiency in light armor, medium armor, short swords, long swords, and great swords. That is pretty huge. So remember what I said about what was it, the shield dwarfs? How you get those armor proficiencies? Well, you get them as a Githyanki too. Githyanki sorcerer is pretty strong because you gain access to medium armor. Same thing with Githyanki wizard. Plus, you get a free Misty Step or a long rest. It's pretty nice. Do I put Gith Yankee in S tier though? I don't. I just don't know if it's as good as these. Um, I'm gonna put Gith Yankee in high A tier. Yeah, and keep in mind these aren't ranked from left to right specifically. I'm just kind of putting it there just to as more of a physical metaphor, I guess. But yeah, I would put it in high A tier. It could easily go in S tier, but because they just look so weird to me, that's more of an aesthetic thing, I know, but I'm putting them in A. But honestly, if you just looked at them objectively at skills, you could put them in S tier. All right, now the dragons. This is gonna be the longest part. Generally speaking, I would put all of the fire dragons at A tier and then everything else at B. But we are going to go specifically one by one and talk about what you get for each of them. So let's start off with the Black Dragonborn. All right, so for the Black Dragonborn, you're going to get Acid Breath, of course, and you're going to get Draconic Ancestry Acid. And the spell that you're going to get. Yeah, guys, I'm actually talking nonsense. There, you don't get a spell from that. You actually just only get the acid breath. I got confused for a minute. Your draconic ancestry, you would get a spell, but you don't for being an actual dragonborn. Which kind of doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. So, black dragonborn, that's gonna go in a B tier. Blue Dragonborn, you're gonna get Lightning Breath and Draconic Ancestry Lightning, which is gonna give you lightning resistance. Right. Honestly, it's gonna be same B tier. Fire Breath and Dragon Ancestry Fire. It's gonna give you fire resistance and fire breath. So yeah, that's gonna go in an A tier. Bronze Dragonborn. This is gonna be your lightning. B tier. Copper. It's gonna be your acid. B tier. Gold is going to be your fire, A tier. And green is going to be poison breath. And you're going to have resistance to poison. Um, yeah, that's going to be honestly probably. We're going to put it in B tier. The red dragonborn. Oh, surprise, surprise. It's fire. So, yeah, if it's a fire dragon, you get fire resistance and you get fire breath. All right. Silver Dragonborn, you're going to get Frost Breath and you're going to get resistance to cold, B tier. And then the White Dragon is going to be the same. You're going to get resistance to cold damage and you're going to get Frost Breath, B tier. So yeah, um, and you know what, guys? The more I think about it, um, all of these are going to go into C tier because honestly, if you want fire resistance, like if you're going these just for fire resistance, fire breath becomes useless after like level 3 or whatever breath that you're using, right? If you want fire resistance, honestly, just go as a tiefling. I mean, the tieflings, I feel like you actually get something other than that resistance, so it just makes more sense to me. The black needs to be down here, but yeah, guys, that's gonna be my final list. Let me know if you guys agree, disagree. Let me know down in the comments if you would move anything. And I may not agree, but I will definitely read it and I will reconsider. All right, guys. Peace out. See you on the next one. Bye bye.